What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Fantasy Alarm, Bettor Sports Network, YouTubes on a Thursday or Wednesday afternoon here. Getting a day ahead of myself, but thanks for everyone for jumping in, as you guys always do. We appreciate everyone that throws out their own bets and picks, comments, anything you got in the chat here on YouTube as you're watching along. We welcome all of your own bets because we are, sometimes overlook things or are obviously wrong on things. I know some of my college basketball picks from yesterday definitely could have been better. But, we turned the page. It's Wednesday here. And on today's show, we got a bunch of, sports we're going to dive into. Producer Adam Bernard will jump on to give his hockey picks as he did yesterday. I'm going to give some college basketball bets as well for tonight. And we'll do some NBA with Jon Imepmba, our one of our NBA experts over there at Fantasy Alarm. And let's start out with some hoops tonight, with some NBA. Bring in Jon Imepmba. What's up, John? Thanks for jumping on. We haven't had you on the show in a little bit, but I'm glad you're back here, man.
Yeah, listen, it's been a little bit. Obviously, been busy finishing out the football season, the NBA season, obviously rolling along. We're working on our MLB content, so. Taking a little break from the live shows here, but happy to join you this afternoon and talk a little NBA hoops with you, man.
Yeah, before we get into any bets for tonight, I got to ask you about the whole Bucks situation.
Yeah.
Firing Adrian Griffin as their head coach, bringing in we got the report today. Now looks like it's going to be official. Doc Rivers as the new head coach. Doc Rivers well from being a Celtics fan. What do you make of this situation? We do have the Bucks playing tonight against the Cavaliers. Is Doc Rivers going to be coaching tonight, or what's the situation?
No, they're going to have the interim coach for tonight still, and then Doc, I expect to be on the bench there for their next game. I mean, listen, this is kind of an interesting situation because all reports during the offseason was that Adrian Griffin was sort of the handpicked selection of Giannis. He was the bench coach there, assistant coach for Toronto. Toronto made some moves. They picked. They went and picked Adrian Griffin on sort of Giannis's request to be the head coach of this team. Nick Nurse, who's the coach of the 76ers, was supposedly someone considered for this role in Milwaukee, and Giannis nixed that one, did not want Nick Nurse to be the head coach, wanted Adrian Griffin, who hadn't had NBA head coaching experience yet. And at some point in time, he kind of lost the locker room. There's obviously been a lot more reports coming out after they lost the in-season tournament. He kind of, spoke down to some of the players, being like, there has to be sacrifice, in order to win these games. And there's some high ego players that are on those teams, notably pointing fingers at Damian Lillard here, who has, since then the Athletic reported that he was feeling a bit lost and didn't really understand or felt like he fit into their offensive game plan. And then ownership, supposedly also kind of sided with the player in that situation. They made those trades. They gave up those first-round picks, traded away Grayson Allen in pieces like that, Drew Holiday, to get Damian Lillard, and they wanted to see him in a system that he would thrive in. Now, Doc Rivers has a history of underperforming in a lot of these situations since he left the Boston Celtics. It's not for the lack of talent that he's had on these teams. You go look at those Clippers teams that were annually favorites in the West and then would fall out first, second round disappointments there with Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and that crew there. He goes to Philadelphia, gets Joel Embiid, has Ben Simmons, has talent around him, had Jimmy Butler. Again, falls short, kept on getting eliminated in the playoffs. Rivers hasn't won anything since he left the big three with Boston with Garnett, Allen, and Pierce. You have three Hall of Famers. It makes it easier to win that championship, that year. So, I'm skeptical. I understand he's a player's coach, but he feels at this point to be more of a figurehead than sort of a tactician on the bench. So we'll see. If he's just going to be a player's coach and let Dame and Giannis run a two-man offense, then great. They're still terrible defensively. That's not going to change. Damian Lillard is one of the worst defensive guards in the NBA for a reason. Drew Holiday, one of the best defensive guards in the NBA. So they're suffering defensively. They're scoring a lot of points. They just can't stop anybody. And I don't think Doc Rivers is going to change that.
Yeah, the Damian Lillard for Drew Holiday, switch has obviously hurt the Bucks defense for sure. And that was something we kind of knew and expected coming into the season. And if Lillard isn't, happy, who knows what's going to happen there. And we'll see the rest of the way. So, yeah, tonight, Cavs, Bucks. No picks from you from that game. But you do have a couple props that you want to dive into for Hornets and Pistons tonight. Little interesting game here.
Yeah, for sure. This is a line that I unfortunately earlier this morning, I thought it was good as it was. Is at 17.5, and I bet it, and that was Brandon Miller, and then it dropped down to 16.5. So I actually went back and bet it again because why not? The rookie's gone over this total 3 straight games, 23 or more points in 3 straight games. Obviously, getting LaMelo Ball in that lineup. He's a great facilitator as the team's point guard. And they traded Terry Rozier. So trading Terry Rozier now takes away shot attempts, that he was having. Rozier's a guy that took 15, 20 shots a game. Now off the floor, they invested, the second overall pick there in Brandon Miller. So obviously they believe in his talent. We're starting to see that upside for him. And now he's got a great matchup against Detroit. The Pistons are not obviously a great defensive team. So I'm looking at Miller here tonight over the 16.5 points. You can get that at minus 125. And again, I bet it at 17.5 this morning. So obviously I was confident in the play as it was. So looking to continue to ride him this evening. And if you wanted the same game parlay it, Jalen Duran over 11.5 rebounds here. That's at minus 140, so it's juiced up a little bit. Charlotte is getting Nick Richards back here, but Kate Cunningham also back for Detroit. Again, more so for me, this is going to be a competitive game. Duran obviously is a really great rebounder. He's really good in the paint. And Charlotte, not a great team against opposing centers, whether Richards was going to be in or out of this lineup. It would have been a much better matchup had Richards been out and PJ Washington had to be their starting center here this evening. But either way, I'm going to look for Duran here to dominate the glass. 11.5 rebounds is something that he can do in his sleep, I think, in this spot. So that's the 2 picks I'm looking at in this game here today.
All right. And I was going to ask you about this Terry Rozier trade, because do you think – so Brandon Miller, do you think he's one of the guys on the Hornets that kind of stands the most to benefit when we're talking props, for the Hornets now?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, listen, he's already been playing a bunch of minutes for them. They insert him into the starting lineup as sort of their starting small forward anyways, especially when Gordon Hayward has been down. And now there's obviously some reports that Gordon Hayward may also be on his way out of Charlotte, whether it be on a buyout or a trade. Miles Bridges is a guy that is also being rumored to be linked to a possible trade. So Charlotte, may just be in rebuild mode here, and they're going to do it around LaMelo Ball. They're going to do it around Brandon Miller. And again, the offensive upside we've seen out of Miller now these last 3 games. He's hitting from 3. He's taking a bunch of shots. He's filling out the stat sheet. And we've seen glimpses of this earlier this year when given sort of the opportunity to take on a larger role while LaMelo Ball was out with his injury. But now seeing it the last couple of games, which included Terry Rozier playing big minutes, it included LaMelo and Miles Bridges all playing big minutes. So to see him come through the way he has, scoring the basketball in some tougher matchups, to me, this one feels like it's obviously a downgraded opponent. No Terry Rozier. The usage rate's going to be there. The shot attempt should be there. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the kid. He's looked really good. Can't complain the way this draft started. Wemby Miller 1-2 here this year.
Yeah. And speaking of Wemby, you got a pick for him in the Thunder Spurs game. We got a matchup of the 2 Rookie of the Year candidates, favorites between Chet Holmgren and the Thunder, and Wemby and the Spurs here. This is the late game on ESPN if people want to watch that live and got a pick going. So you got a pick, though, on Victor Wembanyama here.
I do. I got a couple of ones. One I haven't even put down yet for you guys. So I'll throw that one spur of the moment. But we got Victor Wembanyama over 23.5 points. The minutes limit for him is on the rise. He's now played 4 straight games of over 27 minutes. When he's played at least 25 minutes, he's gone over this total in 5 straight games. We also have the Thunder here on the road on a back-to-back. And this is something that myself and James Grande have started tracking. Most of the NBA is not very good on the road, it seems. They're against the spread records, their overall records are generally all around 500. And this is another spot where the Thunder here against the spread on the road this year, just 12-9. Overall, they're 13-8 on the road. The last 10 games, they're just 5-5 against the spread. Now, San Antonio is one of the worst teams in the NBA overall. They're not great at home either, just 3-16. But against the spread at home, they're 9-10, and they're 8-2 against the spread their last 10 games. So if we're going to look at San Antonio maybe being a bit more competitive in this game, more than a good chance that you're going to see Wembanyama play his 27, 28 minutes. There's also a chance that minute cap gets increased. It was just a couple games ago. Popovich said, they're basically closing in on the time where there's no more restrictions on Wembanyama. And when that day comes, his point prop totals are going to be probably 26, 27, 28. So I'm pretty confident in the 23.5 points here against the Thunder. Did not have a great game against them earlier this season when he matched up but that was a blowout game in that one as well. Again, I think this one's going to be a bit more competitive. And Wemby's just running really good. I mean, he's faced Joel Embiid and Giannis of late, and he's had no problem scoring on either of those two. So give me the Wemby 23.5. I also like in this game Devin Vassell over 4.5 assists. Trey Jones not expected to play. They've been starting Trey Jones as their point guard. Vassell's gone over this total in 3 straight games anyways, but now you're taking off their natural point guard and Jones out of the lineup. They could go a little bit bigger here tonight and either start Champagne or if Branham was healthy enough, I have to check their lineup. But one of those two would likely enter the starting lineup here. They just won't start Keldon Johnson. But regardless, Devin Vassell ends up acting as sort of the pseudo point guard in those lineups here. So the fact that he's already going over these totals anyways, and he could be the starting point guard tonight, I like the over 4.5 assists. And then when I was playing around, because I had a same game parlay boost here tonight, there was a couple of things I think we could do with this game in particular, and that is going with some alt line scoring. I like the Wembanyama alt line 18 plus points, and you can pair that with Jalen Williams alt line scoring of 15 plus points, and then use the Devin Vassell 4.5 assists there, and you get yourself a little 3-pick same game parlay this evening if you happen to have the boost for that one, and get yourself some plus money odds on some pretty juicy lines for me.
Yeah, and that's the ESPN game tonight, 9:30 tip. So if you want to watch that and get these picks in there, and you were saying how Wemby has been pretty good against tougher competition, and the kind of the underlying thing that went overlooked in that Embiid 70-point game was Victor Wembanyama. He had 33 points in that game. He did not back down, even though Embiid was doing his thing. And in that game, Vassell had 9 assists, as you were saying. He's been over this, and that was with Trey Jones.
Jones playing, yeah. So the fact that Trey Jones not looking like he's going to suit up tonight, more assist opportunities for Vassell acting as their point guard on the floor. So feels like a pretty good number against the Thunder, who again on the back-to-back. They played a whole bunch of players last night, like they always do in their back-to-back. So looking for OKC on the road second night. Could see San Antonio hang around here. Feels pretty good for the Spurs side of this one to maybe even cover.
Oh, all right. Awesome stuff, John, man. I've seen that you're 4-0 in the past 2 days on your RT Sports picks, right?
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. We hit both underdog picks yesterday as well. I'm always kicking myself, and I know you go through this, Dan, as well, giving out your plays. I had a list of plays that I liked, and you trying to pick and choose which one you commit to. And I left off the Colin Sexton points yesterday from the article, and gave that out on the radio instead. Of course, that one ends up hitting. So the the sleeper article went 2-1 because Josh Hart finished a rebound and a half shy. We hit the other 2 plays, which is Norm Powell, 11.5 points, and D'Angelo Russell over 2.5 threes. So 4-0 over in RT Sports, 2-0 over on underdog, 2-1-1 on sleeper the last couple of days. So we're looking to keep the winning going here.
Yeah, I hope these are all winners because I'm putting them in as you're talking here. So I know you have the DFS playbook coming out later tonight for tonight's slate, and then you and James Grande 5 p.m. Eastern here on Bettor Sports Betting or Bettor Sports Network Fantasy Alarm doing the NBA DFS live show. So we'll look for you on there on Fantasy Alarm and here on YouTube. Thanks for giving us a few minutes here, man.
Yeah, of course. Anytime you guys need me, give me a shout. I'll talk to y'all later.
All right, John. Thanks. Again, follow him at Jon Imepmba 77 on Twitter if you haven't already as well. He's retweeting, he's tweeting out his picks for the RT Sports and underdog sleeper, everything that he's diving into in the NBA. All right, I'm going to talk some college basketball here. We'll bring on Adam Bernard to talk some hockey in just a little bit, but I got some picks out for college hoops tonight. Awesome slate again. These Wednesdays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays are huge with all the conference games going on around the country. And tonight got a lot of good ones. And the marquee game tonight is Alabama-Auburn. Kind of the Iron Bowl rivalry now taken to the court here. Auburn's been very impressive. They're 16-2. You can see they're ranked 8th in the country. This is, one of those teams that it could be very dangerous in March. But I think it's very interesting that this team has not yet earned a quad 1 win yet. And if you look at, like the net ratings, they take into quad one record into account. And they just haven't had that one marquee win. They've only beaten one opponent this year rated above 50 on KenPom. That was Texas A&M at home. They've kind of benefited from an easier schedule to start this year. And I think I got to see them do it on the road here at Alabama against, an opponent that they're not ranked in the AP poll. They're 12-6. I've already lost 6 times this year, but the advanced metrics love this team. And I can't ignore that here. They're 8th at KenPom, 8th in the country, 6th at Bart Torvik, 9th in the net rankings. Again, this is a team that's not in the top 25 in the AP poll. They have, obviously a bunch of losses so far, but if you look at their, the teams that they have lost to, all of their losses are against teams that have been ranked, that are rated above 50 in KenPom right now. They've had to face Purdue, Arizona, Creighton, Tennessee. 1 or 2 or 3 of those could be Final Four teams when it's all said and done. So Alabama's gone through kind of a gauntlet already, and they haven't yet gotten that one, marquee resume win this year. And I feel like tonight they're going to be motivated to do it. Nate Oates is going to have his team, ready to get this win in this rivalry setting. It's at home for them, which is huge. But I also think Vegas is telling us something here. The fact that Alabama is favored in this spot, because I just think that maybe Auburn's been a little bit, just kind of overrated a little bit early on this year because they have not had those huge, even their wins have not been over top tier competition this year. The record looks great, but I need to see them do it. They've played 3 road games so far, has Auburn. This is going to be their first one at a power conference team that's, actually legit. They played on the road against Arkansas and Vanderbilt, but both those are struggling teams right now, kind of down years for both. Vandy has been for years, but Arkansas has gone through a lot of struggles this year. And when they played on the road at Appalachian State early this year, they lost. So I need to see them do it on the road here. Bama is a team that they play fast. They shoot a ton of threes. Their style is very tough to match for any team. I know Auburn has the talent and the depth to kind of try to match that, but if Alabama starts hitting these threes and they start getting up and down, I feel like they can pull away. So I like Alabama here to cover, to win at home. Alabama is 7-2 against the spread at home this year. Auburn is yet to be an underdog. And I think, again, the sports books are telling us something here that they are underdogs here in this spot because I think Bama gets this done. All right, now going to Virginia at home here against NC State. I've been riding Virginia lately because I think they're starting to turn things around. They had a rough kind of start to the year, suffered a few losses in ACC play, but I think they're starting to turn things around. And these teams actually met earlier this month. It was at NC State, and the Wolfpack won by 16 in that home game. I just think that the roles are now reversed, now going on the road to Virginia. It's a very tough place to play. And Virginia, when they're at home, they like to control the pace, keep it very low scoring. You let their defense, which is a top 20 defense in the country, let them control the flow of the game. I just think that they're going to make NC State play to their level and really just have, that game, that blowout loss in their mind from earlier this year to try to flip the script here. UVA has been a much better team at home this year, by the way. They're 8-2 against the spread at home. And lately, I think they've found something. So they moved Jordan Minor, a center, transfer from Merrimack, where he was a stud at Merrimack. But sometimes it takes a little bit of growing pains to see some of these mid-major guys when they transfer up to a power conference team, see how they fit in, see how they get used to, the different, talent level, physicality. But I think Virginia and the coaching staff, Tony Bennett, is now starting to trust him more. They've put him into the starting lineup over the past couple games here, and they're starting to win. And I think he is kind of the answer at that center spot over some of the guys that were trying out. So I think that's kind of like one of those underlying under the radar changes that Virginia has now made, midway through conference play that I think they've kind of playing a lot more free, it seems, on both ends of the floor. NC State, going on the road here, they're 1-3 against the spread on the road so far this year, which includes, close wins at Louisville and Notre Dame, which are, the bottom feeders of the ACC. So I just think this is a very much tougher road environment at Virginia for NC State to go into. So yeah, give me the Cavaliers to win this one. 5.5 is the spread. On Caesars, it's been going up a little bit. So BetMGM, it's a little bit higher. I think 6.5. So whatever number you can get best there to take Virginia here. All right, next game here, Nevada at home against Colorado State. This is a late night game. Another instance where we have an unranked team favored over a ranked team, and I think there's a reason for it. Nevada's a team that's coming off a 3-game losing streak. I just think they're going to be a team that's going to be very motivated to come in, bounce back, kind of change their conference record now because they've suffered these last 3 losses. But I think at home they're going to be motivated to get this win because Colorado State's a team that they started out hot, 13-1 to start the season, but they've struggled since. They lost on the road at Utah State. They lost on the road at Boise State. They won in overtime at home against a bad Air Force team, and then they just won by 3 at home against UNLV last weekend. So these past 4 games is kind of bad vibes, for a Colorado State team that was, getting a lot of hype early in the year, very hot start, but they've slowed down now. And I think, now they're going on the road at Nevada. It's a tough place to play. And they're 0-4 against the spread in these past 4 games as well. So I think the market is starting to adjust on them, and there's a reason that Nevada's favored here at home. Colorado State last year, they struggled on the road. They were 4-8 straight up on the road, 3-6 straight up on the road in conference play. They also went 2-5 against the spread as road underdogs last year. And Nevada's a team that, went 8-1 straight up in conference play at home last season, 6-2 against the spread at home. I just think that kind of mindset of Nevada, just playing with more confidence, playing a lot better at home, especially coming off this 3-game losing streak. I think they're going to be coming in here ready to get this win. I took the money line for Nevada here. It's -160, maybe a little expensive because I'm scared that Colorado State's going to keep this close throughout, and it could just be like a 1 or 2 point win. So I'm afraid to cover the spread, but you can look at Nevada on the spread. But I'm just taking the money line with the Wolfpack here. All right, going a little off the beaten path of this next one. It's just the numbers and just like a huge mismatch in my opinion. And it's Indiana State. They're on the road at Illinois, Chicago, UIC here. Listen, Indiana State's a legit, mid-major that if they get into the tournament, they're going to be very live to pull an upset in the first round, maybe make a Sweet 16 run. Like this team is, a lot better than you might think. People really don't pay attention to, the Missouri Valley, but especially Indiana State. But this team is pretty legit. They are 22nd in the country in offensive efficiency. 22nd. They're top 25 offensive team. They shoot a ton of threes and are efficient from 3-point shooting. They're making 42% from deep this year, and they have the 6th highest 3-point shooting rate in college basketball. So when this team gets going, they like to play faster too. They're 44th in tempo overall, 23rd in offensive tempo. This is a team that likes to get up and down, similar to Alabama was just talking about. They like to get up and down. They like to shoot threes, and when they're making them, and they have been a lot, it is very tough to match, and it's resulting in a lot of big wins for them. So their 7 conference wins this year in the Missouri Valley have come by an average of 17 points per game. They are 11-3 against the spread as favorites this year. They're 5-2 against the spread as double-digit favorites. So the bigger spread here, 11.5 is the spread that they're favored by on the road. By the way, it just hasn't really mattered because they're killing teams right now, and I think it's gonna be very tough for UIC to keep pace in this one. They're 268th in offensive efficiency, 203rd in pace. So it's just a spot where they're not a team that I think can keep pace on the scoreboard or just in general with this Indiana State team. They're also a team, UIC, that likes to shoot a ton of threes, but they're facing an elite 3-point defense in Indiana State, so it's going to be tough. Illinois, Chicago, they failed to cover 8 straight spreads, so they're 0-8 against the spread in their last 8 games. They're 0-5 against the spread as underdogs in this stretch as well. So I think this is just a spot where you got to keep riding the trends with Indiana State, keep fading Illinois, Chicago, because it's just they're both meeting up, and might be scary to back a huge road favorite like this, but I think it's going to be it should be a 15, 20-point win for Indiana State here on the road. All right, last pick for me. Going Ole Miss to bounce back here. They've lost their past 2 games to Auburn and LSU on the road these past 2. But I think going back home here, I think they get it done against an Arkansas team that is a mess right now, to put it bluntly. This team, Eric Musselman over the recent years here has done a great job, bringing in guys from the transfer portal, finding how guys fit in with each other, even though he has so much talent on the roster, but finding where guys slot in and each guy finding their role. But right now he hasn't found it yet. Maybe he turns it around, but right now, he is changing up his starting lineups and his rotations on a game-by-game basis. Basically, they have 10 guys who could start every night and play meaningful minutes. These are guys that, a lot of them were transfers either this offseason or last offseason that, were either the 1 or 2 options on their former teams and now coming into Arkansas. And I think there's some struggles right now with trying to find out what they are and where guys fit in. And they're 1-4 in SEC play so far. All 4 of those losses have been by double digits. This is a team it just hasn't been as competitive as we thought at the beginning of the season. And again, maybe Musselman turns it around. I think right now it's a tough spot going on the road at Ole Miss, where, Arkansas this year on the road or in neutral games, they're 0-7 against the spread. So this is a team that is clearly had some issues on the road and when they're away from home. And I think you get an Ole Miss team here that's, again, coming off 2 straight losses to Auburn and LSU on the road. Now they're back at home. I think it's a good chance to kind of get right, rebound. Their only 3 losses this year have been on the road in the past month. So I think there's a spot where they get right. They're 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 home games is Ole Miss. Chris Beard, I think, is going to have his team motivated coming off these back-to-back losses. They're going to be prepared for, just a struggling Arkansas team to get right, get back on track, because they have some tougher, home game, league games in the SEC coming up over the next month. But this is a game they need to get. They need to win and get another win in the win column in this SEC standings, because they have a lot tougher games in Arkansas coming up. So, yeah, give me Ole Miss, the Rebels. 6.5 is the spread. Another one that's gone up a little bit over the course of the day and from last night. But whatever, find the best number you can get, obviously. But 6.5 is the spread right now. I do think it could easily be a double-digit win for Ole Miss, though, because again, Arkansas, they all 4 of their SEC losses have been by at least 10 points. So, give me Ole Miss. So going Ole Miss, Indiana State, going a lot of favorites here. But listen, if you've been paying attention to college basketball, if you've been betting on college basketball, riding with favorites has been a profitable strategy. It may be, chalky, it may be, soft, whatever, but riding with these favorites has just been very good. And taking chances on underdogs, I've done it. You can pick your spots with underdogs, especially on the road. Road underdogs has just not been profitable this year. We'll see if that changes. And I do think, as the season goes along, that will change. But when you have these, just the home court advantage has been very prevalent this season, especially now that we're in conference play. You just see road teams getting picked off left and right, especially top 25 teams. Last night, me and Pete Cole gave out Kentucky as the road favorites, and they got upset by South Carolina. It is just a gauntlet out there on the road. It doesn't matter what conference you're playing in at this point. Going with Alabama, going with Virginia, Nevada, Indiana State, and Ole Miss as my picks here on today's show. All right, let's wrap things up with some hockey talk and bring in our producer, Adam Bernard. He gave out some bets last night. He's been on this show plenty. What's up, Adam? Thanks for coming on again here.
No problem. Happy to be here, even though I made the journey down to San Jose to watch the Rangers just completely play flat in the third period and blow a 2-goal lead.
I was going to ask you about that because I was monitoring that one. I put a little money after you gave out the pick on the Rangers, but it did not. You stayed the whole game and watched that collapse?
Oh, yeah. I don't leave the games early, especially if I only get to see my team like once a year. And yeah, like after 2 periods, it wasn't like the Rangers were dominating, but they're up 2-0. They looked all right. They looked like they had some control of the game. Then hockey is such a funny sport because one bad play and it can all come crumbling down. Jimmy Vesey makes a stupid defensive pass in his own zone, tries to bank pass it behind his own net to somebody else. An astute Shark player comes in, pretty much throws the puck in an empty net because the goalie's not ready for that. 3 minutes later, they tie the game, and then it goes to overtime and they win. So, you have bad 2-minute stretch, and that's it. They were so flat in the third.
That's just how it goes, man.
Yeah.
Man. Once you get because it was 2-0, and once they got the 1 goal, it was like, all right, now this is tighter. This isn't going to probably be a 2-goal win for the Rangers unless they squeak another one out in the third. But then the Sharks came back.
They had a power play with about 7 minutes to go in the third, and when the Rangers didn't score on that, I'm like, yeah, the puck line's probably dead.
Well, listen, we wiped the slate clean now, right? We got plenty of games tonight to dive into for the hockey. Your first pick coming here in the Caps and the Avalanche game, Colorado, Washington. Where are you going here?
So normally when we look at puck lines, we look at the -1.5. Tonight, I'm looking at the +1.5, and here's why. The Capitals are on a back-to-back. They're heading to the Mile High City, so this is a perfect time to fade them. However, when you look at the goalie matchup, Colorado might be one of the best teams in the league, but Alexander Georgiev, it's not to say it's in spite of him, but he is not helping. He's been a little shaky in his last 9 starts, even though he's gone 6-3. He's got an .885 save percentage and has allowed more than 3 goals in all but 1 game during that stretch. Ideally, you want your goaltenders to be in the .915 area save percentage, just to give you an idea of those numbers. Even anything above 9 is fine, but .915 is good. You start getting above that, you start becoming great. .885 is not where you want to be, especially if you're a starting goaltender on a bad team. Now, conversely, Washington is sending out Charlie Lindgren, who has been very steady for them this season, and has a .928 save percentages of late, despite a 3-2-1 record. The Avs score a lot, so the chances are they win, but I think Lindgren is good enough and Georgiev is leaky enough to keep it close. So for a +1.5 here at -110, what the goaltending matchup I'll bet on the Caps keeping it close here.
I love that. Fading just kind of the popular narrative that a team on a back-to-back going out to Colorado, but you like the Caps here.
I'm all, and you'll see on 2 other picks, I'm fading teams on back-to-backs. Okay. So. And normally it's a very good strategy, especially, at the team going into Denver. But because of the goaltending matchup and because there's not a lot of faith in Georgiev right now, and the only reason why he's still got the start increase is because Colorado just keeps winning. So, I'm going to take a chance here that you got a really good goaltender in Washington that can maybe keep it close, even off a back-to-back.
All right, the late TNT game tonight for the hockey is the Chicago Blackhawks on the road at Seattle Kraken here, and you got to pick in this game.
I do. That'll follow the Hurricanes Bruins game, which will be the first part of that doubleheader. And I like Seattle here too. The Oilers are on a 14-game winning streak. They continue to roll. Seattle did have a 9-game winning streak not too long ago. Now they've lost 4 in a row since then. They've been playing some good opponents. But this is a beautiful get-right spot here for the Kraken. They tend to beat up on bad teams and clamp down on them. Blackhawks have lost 5 of their last 7, have only scored more than 1 goal in 4 of their last 12 games. So factoring those two things in, Seattle has not also, because they were on the road for 6 games, they have not won in front of their home fans since January 4th. And they're going to be going out on a road trip soon. So I think there's a good chance to get right, get a victory over a bad team. I know Chicago's been a little bit better in their last 2 games, but I think Seattle is one of those teams where they're not a good team, but they do tend to take advantage. They're a borderline playoff team that can take advantage of really bad teams. So I think that's what's going to happen here. Money line's too juiced. Even the win in regulation was a little too juiced. So I think the under could be in play at 5.5. I'm not touching the total. So I think you could get like a 3-0, 3-1, 4-1 kind of Kraken win here tonight.
Yeah, the money line at like minus 280. If you wanted to throw that in a parlay or something, but just a straight up pick going with the puck line for the Kraken. All right, you got Blues and Canucks up in Vancouver. You got a pick for this one as well.
Yeah, so the Canucks on the puck line are actually plus money 110 Caesars to cover 1.5. Another back. This is a back to one of the 2 back-to-back spots we're actually going to attack here. The Blues won last night in Calgary 4-3, and they beat the Caps prior to that, but they lost 3 in a row before that. Canucks have won 8 of their last 9, have outscored their last 2 opponents 7-3, and have covered this puck line 5 times during that stretch. It is a battle of the backups tonight with Joel Hofer going for the Blues and Casey DeSmith for the Canucks. But DeSmith has been a very good backup this year. He's been an excellent under-the-radar acquisition for them, posting a 2.55 goals against and a 9.15 save percentage. St. Louis's last 5 losses have been by 2 or more, so when they lose by a decent amount. This is their 3rd and final meeting of the season. This is the rubber match. They split their previous 2. This is enough of a mismatch here where I think you might be sweating this one out for an empty net goal at the end, but I think Vancouver can cover the 2 goals at plus 110.
All right, and your last pick here, you're going with a lot of late night puck drops, I'm seeing, and this is the latest game tonight, 10:30 Eastern, is the Sabres and Kings, and you got to pick for this one.
I thought you'd say something. Like, when I looked at the slate, I'm like, all the
I just realized looking at the schedule, I was like, wow, late night game.
Well, I mean, and that's what, I watched the whole league, but, I'm on the West Coast. So, a lot of the Eastern Conference games drop the puck at, 4 o'clock, 4:35. That's right around when I'm wrapping up work, going to pick up my daughter, etc. So I watch the West more. So I tend to bet more in the conference I see. Yes, I like the Kings in regulation tonight against the Sabres. Another team coming here off a back-to-back. The Buffalo lost 4-2 in Anaheim last night. Some people might say the Sabres look good in the 3rd period. I think that was more of Anaheim just kind of letting them back into the game. The Sabres have not beaten what you'd consider a good team since December 21st. So they tend to only play well against good teams. And hold on here. I got something on my headset. There we go. The Kings were a good team, and they got off to a very strong start, and it's a good thing they did because they're struggling a ton lately. They've lost 11-13, including blowing a game to the Sharks 2 nights ago. They've got a bad taste in their mouth. Head coach Todd McClellan has called out offseason acquisition Pierre-Luc Dubois specifically, as well as the team. So I think you're going to get a fired-up Kings bunch tonight. So they're good. And the Kings are trotting out their backup tonight, Devon Levi. Your favorite goaltender, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, played last night, so he gets the night off tonight. And it's much like Seattle, this is the last game before heading out on a road trip, so I think LA is looking to leave on a good note here. Again, a strong get-right spot like the Kraken have tonight, so I think we can get the Kings to take care of business at minus 120 in regulation because money line too juiced, and I don't know, they're not playing well enough where I want to throw money on a puck line at this point. So maybe I think they want a tight one in regulation.
Yeah, there's a lot of big money lines I'm seeing tonight in hockey. So that's why you're throwing out a lot of these puck lines or the 1-in-60 lines because it's a lot of like minus 200 or higher money lines right now.
Yeah, I mean the game of the night is probably Winnipeg, Toronto. A lot of these games could really go either way in terms of scoring, in terms of totals, and like you said, the money lines just aren't really there tonight. So. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game Wednesday night slate. So that's actually pretty big for a Wednesday. Usually we're looking at maybe 3 or 4 games. So, there's stuff to pick from out there.
Yeah, it's nice to have you on a Wednesday because, you were on yesterday and sometimes these Wednesdays aren't great for hockey. But, we got at least the TNT games, but plenty of other games too for those that are glued in.
I will be watching.
Yeah, you will. The late night, not late for you on the West Coast, but late for me here on the East.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, when I'm in the recliner, there's once you get past about 9:15, 9:30, I mean, the chances of me being awake are spotty.
Yeah.
But, that's you can always wake up and watch the replay. Like, I fell asleep in the third period. I'll just pick up where I left off.
Adam, awesome stuff as always. Thanks for jumping on here for a few.
Thanks for having me on, Dan. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, man. All right, so that's about it for this show. Again, we talked some NBA with Jon Imepmba. I gave out some college basketball picks, and we had some hockey there from Adam Bernard. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, we'll be back here. Probably dive into a range of sports again, because that's what we got going on a nightly basis, and we got you covered at Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. Go to Fantasy Alarm right now. We got DFS and betting picks for all these sports as well. Tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern, here on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm YouTube, we got NBA DFS Live with Jon Imepmba and James Grande, so you can hear more basketball talk from Imepmba and Grande there tonight. Again, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, we'll be back here. Good luck with all your bets. Appreciate everyone listening and watching today on a Wednesday. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Good luck tonight, and we'll catch you guys later.
Bettor Sports Betting on the Bettor